Looks like we got an update. Jet Set Nightclub owner speaks out after being arrested for the deadly roof collapse.
In the Dominican Republic that collapsed, killing hundreds of people. What he's saying in his first interview since the tragedy. Welcome back. I'm Jessica Moore.
And I'm Alice Gaynor. The owner of Jet Set Nightclub in Santo Domingo says he had no warnings of any problems.
He also said he's not aware of any structural inspections throughout the building's history. The family of one victim from New Jersey tells investigative reporter Tim McNicholas the owner should have done more.
Jet Set Nightclub owner Antonio Espaillat told El Dia, a TV program in the Dominican Republic, that his family has operated the club at this building for about 30 years. Throughout that time, he says no engineer, architect, or state authority has ever conducted a structural review here. He says firefighters and city officials did inspect for basic safety and licensing issues. If this could have been avoided, he says, I would have done just that to avoid it because my sister was there. My mom was always there. He says for decades, air conditioning units routinely leaked onto the club's plaster ceiling panels, sometimes causing them to fall. So Jet Set employees would replace the damaged sections, which he says an employee had done the night of the collapse. It's not clear if that had anything to do with what happened, and Espaillat says he's cooperating as authorities investigate the cause.
She was my best friend.
Luz Contreras from Passaic lost her sister in the collapse, Jennifer Contreras.
What do you mean the employees were in charge of changing pieces of the ceiling or fixing the ceiling? That makes no sense. What? So you guys are not going to send inspectors?
Espaillat says there were 6 air conditioning units on the roof and the club had hired a company to take care of them. The club owner says it is not commonplace for businesses in the area to undergo structural inspections. But the Contreras family says Espaillat should have had the structure inspected anyway.
He's saying, like, in the loophole, it ain't no law. Like, saying I should have had it that'd be unusual. So it's like it takes something like this for people to change, for things to change. Now, the DR going to update the buildings code. They probably make a new government department just for inspecting businesses or like commercial properties. It was leaking. You had water, 6 units. It was leaking so much it's coming through the roof. You don't get it inspected. Like you got things hanging from the roof, like like you telling me you got the big ass chandelier and the glass hanging. Like say if the whole building ain't collapsed, but it's okay that like a rafter fall on people. Why the club's at capacity?
Check that stuff because if you're inviting the public into a space, you want the public to be safe.
Thanks.
My sister went into that club feeling safe, that she was just going to go see a concert like any other person will.
Tim joins us on set now. So the big question I think most of our viewers are asking, we're asking, what are Dominican officials saying about the lack of inspections?
That is the big question for sure. And we have reached out to the government there to ask just that. We haven't heard back yet, but as soon as we do, we will update our reporting.
Yeah. Any more from the Contreras family? I mean, how are they holding up?
So today was really an especially tough day for them because they spent this morning finalizing the burial arrangements for Jennifer. So every day's been tough. Today's been especially tough. They've also been in touch with attorneys trying to figure out what legal actions they could take.
They need to. I heard he was arrested. That's why I was looked at this, but let me see if he was. That was a month ago. Let me see. This is what I see. He was arrested.
A few months ago, there was a massive tragedy here in the Dominican Republic when the Jet Set Nightclub in Santo Domingo collapsed. Over 200 people died, including some famous baseball players, singers, and so on. A lot of sort of the elites in the society were at that particular party on just a random Monday night. So such a terrible, terrible tragedy. Well, today, the owner, Antonio Espaillat of Jet Set Nightclub, was arrested. I'm recording this. It's about 11 o'clock at night on Thursday, June 12th. His arrest came just a few hours ago, and I arranged what I know to be the facts right now. What some of the rumors have been, I'll debunk, especially one big one, and then get into sort of the laws and legal precedent. Now, not a lawyer, not pretending to be. I'm not an expert on the Dominican legal system. What I can tell you is my background in insurance claims, and at the level that I was at, I did a lot of directing of defense counsel. So I defended in terms of negligence cases as somebody who would defend very poorly, but we'll see what happens. But here are the facts. Thursday, June 12th, he was arrested, Antonio Espaillat, and placed in a detention center while authorities are investigating charges of manslaughter. So the way it works in the Dominican Republic legally, you have 48 hours after an arrest is made to file charges. If you don't file charges in 48 hours, you are supposed to be released. That doesn't always happen here. That's sort of a loose, I've seen it already in my time here, that's sort of a loosely abided by law. So we'll see what happens, but he's initially being thought to be charged with manslaughter depending on the outcome of the investigation, but that's what it was. The arrest is really—
the government, like, I ain't taking that fuck. They ain't taking that fall.
Centered on a few different things, a few different facts. One is his admission, Espaillat's admission, that the building that Jet Set was in had not been inspected for 30 years. So there were no structural or other inspections done for 30
and they would
years
change and
on
shit.
the building.
And remember, it's originally like a movie theater. So if you think a movie theater, you got people on the ground, it's not really. They weren't expecting during the original building phase for stuff to be hanging from the ceiling and people to be dancing and vibration of movies. I mean, vibration of the music. Like, that's a lot. The vibration, people playing music, people, that creates a lot of vibration. If you know vibration, it slowly loosen up screws and bolts will come out.
We'll talk about that in a second. It also centers on the negligence due to an overload on the roof. There were, I think, 6 large AC units and other things
like industrial
on the roof of the Jet Set Nightclub, and the arrest cites that overload as grounds for negligence, we'll say. There's also discussion of witness tampering, specifically one employee a few years ago who alleges that there's videotape of him warning the Espaillats about the fact that the roof is overloaded and it will collapse. And he went so far as to say, hey, if something happens to me, it's them. They did it to me. Meaning, he felt like if he outed the fact that he felt the roof was unsafe well before this ever collapsed,
kill him.
And it got some sort of publicity that they had indicated, the Espaillats, that he may not be safe anymore.
Oh, that's a big one. If that's true right there, he needs to be thrown under the prison. Like somebody warning you and you already knew. You just saying, like, why not? Y'all making so much money probably that hand over fist, your family rich, probably own other shit in the DR and other places. Why be so cheap, penny pinch so much that happens?
And he expressed that. True, not true, we'll see what happens, but that's sort of the facts of the arrest, if you will. Okay, what does the law look like and even legal precedent? So again, my analysis of this is what this is. Talk to a lawyer to get more clear analysis, but I don't think anybody's I don't think anybody gets in the weeds on this stuff like I do, so I figured I'd share.
And I'll put this link to this guy video in the description if you want to watch it. I know I'm jumping around. Some people get mad. Y'all can watch this full thing in its entirety in the comments, in the description below. Go to it.
So when I look at the laws for permitting and inspection, very clear on the build. So when a building is built here, the laws in the Dominican Republic are very clear on permitting and inspection requirements from the time that it's broken ground to the time that the building is delivered. Very clear. Ongoing inspection requirements are less clear. While it's jarring to hear like there's been no structural inspections done in the last 30 years, for a privately owned building, that's not really, unless somebody knows something better than I do, it's not really a feature of the law. Public buildings, yes. Public government-owned buildings, yes. But not privately owned buildings, unless those privately owned buildings are meant to host large public gatherings like Jet Set, but those buildings went through a modification. Now,
got him.
Some may say, well, he was putting plasterboard and stuff on the roof. He put those generators on there. True. But the way I'm seeing this interpreted, modification is meant more to be like it went from a theater to a nightclub. And along the way, many of you may know the history, maybe that did happen. Maybe in the last...
It did. It went from a fucking theater to a nightclub. He don't know this? Okay, we know some cave dwellers that he don't know. Yes, it went from a theater, a movie theater.
30 years, somebody mentioned a structural beam might have been removed. I see nothing of that here, but maybe people remember that. Maybe that's real. I don't know. But if there was modification of the building to the extent that it was majorly modified, not like minor repairs from what I can tell in the law, there's really no inspection requirement for a privately owned building.
Oh,
now,
they got him right there. Well, he get convicted. Let's listen.
Call it the status of those that were impacted. You're talking merengue legends, baseball players, like professional baseball players, CEOs of companies, right? Like some of the most elites in the country were in that building and were either injured, 180 I think injuries, or killed, 240 plus deaths in that tragedy, in that collapse. So when you've got, say, people on the higher end of the socioeconomic ladder pressuring their friends in government, who they're, I'm sure, connected to do something here, I'm sure those two variables make it more likely that he gets a conviction, even if it's unclear whether or not there's a causal link between his actions and the collapse, his actions and the modifications done to the roof, and whether he should have known that was too heavy for it to then, for what had happened to have happened. The only other thing, or the big thing I think, is if, and I've heard there's a videotape, if the witness tampering charge is true, if a former employee warned of the roof collapse, if that's documented somewhere, and if it's proven, or at least fairly clear, that he was hushed, silenced, threatened, told, like if he goes public with this, that it could be harm to him and harm to his family. I mean, that makes it go from likely, which is my assessment, to
definite.
Clearly.
Like, so this is Jamie Gruber. Okay, breaking. Jet Set Nightclub owner arrested. Do you think he'll get convicted? See what they say. Unfortunately, the laws in the Dominican Republic are outdated, and he won't receive more than 2 years. So that's another thing. He could get convicted, but it's something like a slap on the wrist. I think anything, 200-something people died, almost 300 people. If you get anything under 10 years, you got to see that as like, whew. He got family that go on, and then they're going to have to pay these. If he get found guilty criminally, then that looks better for the families to sue him civilly. Like, okay, look, they found him, boom. So they might sue him, give him 4 years, just so the families could go there and collect the money, and he could settle with them or whatever. They go to court. The family got money. He would probably shift the blame to the engineer. The catch. And another thing, I'm reading this. Maybe he get fucking. While he in there, they say, oh, he killed himself in a fucking Epstein way, even though it's different. But he might just shit the boot. They pay the guards a little money. I don't know. I ain't trying to say like DR corrupt. It happens in America, but in a little small country like DR with so many people legendary, it might be somebody's favorite baseball player, merengue player, and it might do it. They might not have to get paid. 2 years the most. If the 2 years is multiplied per victim, that may be a better outcome. Hopefully all the businesses in the country start doing the inspections. Yeah, something going to change. Some major update going to change in the law. I can almost guarantee that. About time he got arrested. Yeah. So let me know what y'all think, Cave Dwellers. Do y'all think he's going to be convicted? And if so, how many years y'all got him doing? Or will he shift the blame? Let's talk about it, Cave Dweller. Like, share, subscribe. Please do all that. We're running it up. Love to my Cave Dwellers.